There's something about silence that lingers, not just in the air, but in the spaces between thoughts. It's not the absence of sound, but the weight it carries, like a memory that refuses to fade. We are all just trying to make sense of a world that doesn't always make sense, and sometimes it's the silence that speaks loudest. This is not just a video, it's a journey into the quiet places where meaning hides. Welcome to the first part of a deep dive, where we look beyond the surface and into the silence. So what exactly are we talking about? It's not just about the numbers or the data. It's about the weight of silence, the cost of forgetting, and the fragile thread that holds memory to reality. We're diving into the stories that slip through the cracks of time, those that aren't told, those that are lost, and those that are buried under layers of indifference. We're not just talking about history. We're talking about the spaces between words, the pauses in conversations, the unspoken truths that shape what we know and what we choose to ignore. It's about the moments that don't make it into the record, the lives that don't make it into the books, and the voices that are left out of the narrative. This is the beginning of a journey into the unknown, into the silence that lingers, and into the quiet places where meaning is not spoken, but felt. You think this is just about numbers and graphs, but it's about people. It's about the lives that are quietly shaped by the world we build and the world we ignore. When you scroll past the headlines, you're not just avoiding the news. You're avoiding the weight of what's happening right now, in places you don't see. You might not have a stake in this, but you do. Every system that shapes the world has a hidden cost, and you're part of the system, whether you realize it or not. This is not something you can ignore. It's not a distraction, not a side note. It's the foundation of everything that matters, and you're already entangled in it. So, if you're wondering why you should care, it's because you already do. The question is whether you're ready to face the truth of it. The first flicker of human history was not in the stars, but in the fire. It burned in caves, in the hands of our ancestors, illuminating the dark, giving them the courage to dream beyond the night. From that fire, stories were born. Oral traditions passed down through generations, etched into memory like the cracks in the earth, shaping the very foundation of our shared human experience. Then came the wheel, the plow, the written word. Each was a turning point, a moment that shifted the weight of the world from one hand to the next, binding generations in a fragile but enduring chain. History is not a straight line, but a spiral. We repeat, we learn, we stumble, we rise. Every era carries the weight of the past, shaping the present in ways we may never fully understand. As we move forward, we carry the echoes of those who came before, their struggles, their triumphs, their dreams, all part of the same unbroken thread woven through time. Imagine you have a toy that you really love. It's not just any toy. It's the one that makes you feel safe, happy, and understood. That's what the core idea is, but for grown-ups, the core idea is like that toy. It's the one thing that holds everything together, the reason everything else matters. Without it, the world feels empty, even if it's full of things. It's not always loud or flashy. Sometimes it's quiet, like a whisper in the dark. But you know it when you hear it. It's the thing that makes you feel like you're not alone. This core idea isn't just about what you believe. It's about what you feel, what you carry, what you need to keep going. It's the reason you wake up in the morning. So when we talk about the core idea, we're not just talking about an idea. We're talking about something real, something you can feel, something that shapes how you see the world. The first step is setting the stage, not just in the room, but in the mind. You create a space where silence is not an absence, but a presence. A place where the weight of the moment settles like dust in the air. It begins with intention. You gather the tools not for spectacle, but for clarity. A pen, a page, a breath held just long enough to feel the world hold its own. You sit down not to speak, but to listen, to let the silence become a language of its own. The room becomes a mirror, reflecting not just the present, but the weight of what has come before. This is the beginning of a journey, not into noise, but into the quiet that holds the most truth. The setup is the first breath before the silence begins. Once the signal is captured, it's passed through a series of delicate, finely tuned components. These parts are like the nervous system of the device, interpreting the raw data into something we can understand. Each pulse is filtered, amplified, and shaped to ensure clarity. It's a quiet but crucial process, like the careful tuning of a violin before a performance. Every detail matters. This digital signal is then sent to a processor, which deciphers it into sound. It's a moment of revelation, where the invisible becomes audible, and the intangible becomes real. Finally, the sound is amplified and sent to the output. It's a chain of trust, a relay of meaning through time and space, from the source to our ears. Step 3 is where the system turns the ordinary into the extraordinary. It doesn't just follow the rules, it plays with them, like a composer bending a melody to create something new. It's a moment of transformation, where the rigid becomes fluid. This is where the idea isn't just followed. It's reimagined, twisted into something that feels both familiar and foreign. This is where the system shows its true character. It's not just about following steps. It's about knowing when to break them, and when to bend them just enough to make the whole thing feel right. The clever twist is the final breath before the reveal. It's the hush before the silence, the pause that makes the audience lean in, ready to see what comes next. Beneath the surface of every question, there is a pulse of truth, a rhythm that hums in the quiet spaces between words. It's not just what we see, but what we feel. The weight of the unknown, the ache of unanswered questions, the silence that holds the answer. Science is not just equations and data. It's the quiet hum of discovery, the echo of a truth waiting to be heard. In the stillness, we listen. Not for noise, but for the music of the world. The science that lies beneath the surface, waiting to be uncovered. This is the science that doesn't shout. It hums, it waits, it listens, and it speaks to those who are ready to hear. It's like trying to catch a fish in a river with your hands, not a net. You'll get wet, you'll get frustrated, and you'll rarely come away with more than a few drops of water. You think you're making progress, but the river is always moving, and the fish are always out of reach. It's a dance of effort and futility. Sometimes you feel like you're not even in the same river anymore, like the water has changed, and you're just a stranger in a place you once knew. But there's a kind of dignity in that struggle, in the quiet persistence of someone who knows the river is worth the fight, even when the fish are never caught. It's not about the fish. It's about the river. And in that, there's a kind of truth that's both humbling and beautiful. Comment this emoji if you made it to the end. There's a moment, just before the first light breaks, when the world seems to hold its breath. It's not quiet, but it's still. Like the earth is waiting for something to begin. You can almost hear the silence hum. It's not the absence of sound, but the presence of something else, something ancient, something that has always been here and always will be. It's in these moments that the world feels like it's not just watching you, but waiting for you to notice it, to understand it, to be part of it. And then, just as you think you've grasped it, it slips away. Like the first light dissolves into the day and the world is no longer still. It's alive, and it's moving forward. That's the hook. That's the moment you're not sure if you're being pulled into something or simply being shown it. And that's where the story begins. We're not just talking about ideas or theories. We're talking about the quiet, persistent weight of what we choose to ignore. It's the silence between the words, the space where meaning isn't spoken, but felt. This is the space where questions linger, where the world is both present and absent. It's not about answers. It's about the act of asking, and the courage it takes to hold a question in your hands. This is the terrain of reflection, where we confront the weight of our choices, the silence of our unspoken truths, and the space between what we are and what we might become. So, what exactly are we talking about? We're talking about the spaces between, the moments that shape us, the silences that speak louder than words, and the quiet places where meaning is made. You think this is just about facts and figures, but it's about something deeper. The way we see the world and how that shapes the choices we make, even when we don't realize it. When we don't understand something, we fill the gaps with assumptions, and those assumptions can lead us to miss the truth, or worse, to act on it without thinking. This isn't just about knowledge. It's about responsibility. The more we understand, the more we are called to act. And that carries a weight that not everyone is ready to carry. You might not care about the details, but you do care about the consequences. And the consequences of not caring are real, and they're already happening. So maybe you don't know where this is going, but you're already in it. And that's why you should care. Not because you want to, but because you already are. History is not a straight line, but a spiral. Each revolution bringing us closer to the truth, yet never fully revealing it. We chase the past not to escape the present, but to understand the weight of our choices and the echoes they leave behind. Time is not a river, but a series of moments, each one a ripple that reshapes the course of what is to come. To run through history is to feel the pulse of the world, the heartbeat of humanity, and the gravity of its lessons. We are not the masters of time, but its witnesses, carrying its weight in our hearts and moving forward with its memory. The core idea isn't about making things bigger or faster. It's about asking, what's really important? And then making sure that thing gets the attention it needs. Imagine you have only one pencil and one piece of paper. What would you draw? Not the whole world, just the one thing that matters most to you right now. The core idea is like a compass. It doesn't tell you where to go, but it helps you know which way to turn when everything else is loud and confusing. It's not about perfection. It's about focus. The thing that matters most is the only thing that needs to be clear. When you get it, you don't need to explain it. You just do it. And that's the hardest part. Making sure the important thing stays important. The first step is the setup. It begins with a quiet room, a single light, and a chair that holds you in place. The space is deliberate, stripped of distraction, a canvas for focus. You sit down, not to perform, but to be present. The chair is not an instrument, but a vessel for stillness. It holds your body, not as a cage, but as a foundation. You close your eyes, not to escape the world, but to meet it more fully. The body becomes a mirror, reflecting the world without filters, without noise, without pretense. This is not the beginning of a task, but the beginning of a presence. You are not here to do something, but to be here, to be fully here, in this moment, in this space, in this silence. The setup is not about preparation. It is about permission. To sit, to be, to hold still, to let the world come to you in its own time. This is the first step, the quiet before the storm. Now we reach the second step, where the mechanism begins to take shape. This is where the blueprint transforms into motion, where the idea becomes something tangible, something that can be touched and tested. It's a moment of quiet precision, where every line and curve has purpose. The designer is not just drawing a shape, but building a foundation for function, for the way this mechanism will move and respond. This model is more than a prototype. It's a bridge between imagination and reality. It allows us to see how the pieces will fit, how the motion will flow, and where the weaknesses might lie. The mechanism is not just about movement. It's about control, about the interplay of forces and resistance. It's a dance of gears and levers, a balance of power and precision. As the model is tested, it reveals truths we could not see on paper. It shows us where the design is strong and where it needs to be reimagined, where the idea is close to becoming something real. Now, the system begins to weave its most subtle thread. It's not just about gathering data, but about understanding the hidden patterns that connect the pieces. This is where the machine starts to think, not in rigid logic, but in the quiet language of associations, where meaning emerges from the spaces between. The twist isn't in the code, but in the way the code begins to reflect the world, like a window that only reveals the truth when you stop looking through it. This is where the machine becomes more than a tool. It becomes a companion, one that asks not what you want, but what you need to know. Beneath the surface of everything, there's a quiet, persistent hum, not of noise, but of energy, of motion, of life itself. It's the language of the universe, written in frequencies too subtle for most ears to catch. This hum isn't just in the air. It's in the bones of the earth, in the blood of the stars, in the spaces between thoughts. It's the unseen rhythm that binds all things, ancient and unbroken. Science is not just about what we see. It's about what we feel, what we sense, what we are made of. It's about listening to the hum, even when it's too quiet to hear. To understand this hum is to understand the world not as it appears, but as it is. A vast, resonant field of energy, waiting to be felt, to be known, to be loved. There is a kind of truth that doesn't need to be explained, only felt. It's like when you're in the middle of a storm and you realize the sky isn't breaking. It's just learning how to cry. Sometimes the most profound insights come from the simplest, most absurd comparisons. Like trying to explain love by comparing it to a toaster. Hot, sometimes inconvenient, and always surprising in its warmth. The beauty of being human is that we don't need to understand everything to be whole. We just need to feel, to wonder, to keep asking questions even when the answers don't fit. In the end, it's not about getting it all right. It's about being willing to be wrong, to be confused, to be curious. Because that's where the magic lives. Comment this emoji if you made it to the end. There's something about silence that makes you listen harder. It doesn't just fill the air. It cuts through it like a blade through fog and leaves you exposed. You sit, not because you want to, but because you feel you must. It's not fear, it's something deeper, like a pull toward the unknown, a question without an answer. This is not just stillness, it's a pause in time, a moment that refuses to be rushed, a space where everything you thought you knew begins to unravel. And in that silence, you realize you're not alone. You're just not hearing it yet. The world is still speaking, but you're not ready to listen. So you stay, not because you want to, but because you have to. Because this is where the story begins, not with words, but with the space between them. So what exactly are we talking about? It's not just about the facts or the data. It's about the weight of what we've chosen to ignore, the stories that have been buried under layers of noise and indifference. We're discussing the unseen, the unspoken, the parts of our world that don't make headlines, that shape the very fabric of our reality. These are the moments that define us, even when they don't demand to be seen. This isn't just an academic exercise. It's a reckoning with the choices we've made, the stories we've allowed to fade, and the responsibility we carry for what we've chosen to forget. We're not just looking for answers. We're searching for meaning in the silence, for clarity in the chaos, and for a way to finally listen. Not just to the voices that demand to be heard, but to the ones that have been waiting all along. You think you're not affected by this, but you are. It's not just about the numbers or the headlines. It's about the lives, the stories, the people who are quietly being changed by it. When you scroll past it, you're not just ignoring it, you're allowing it to shape your world without you even knowing. It's like a slow, quiet erosion of your reality. You don't have to be the hero of this story, but you do have to be aware of what's happening. Because if you're not, then you're letting something else decide your future for you. And that's why you should secretly care. Not because it's loud or dramatic, but because it's real. And because you're part of it, even if you don't realize it yet. We're hurtling through centuries, and the weight of time feels heavier with every step. History isn't just a list of events. It's a living, breathing echo of those who came before. In the ruins of ancient empires, we find the bones of civilization. Stone temples, broken statues, and the whispers of forgotten languages. These are the footprints of humanity, etched in stone. The Renaissance was a rebirth, not just of art, but of thought. Humanism awakened the soul, and the world began to look at itself with new eyes, full of curiosity and wonder. The Industrial Revolution came like a storm. Steam, steel, and the rise of the machine. It changed the way we live, work, and dream. Progress came with a price. And now, we stand on the edge of something new. The digital age has rewired the way we connect, create, and exist. We are both architects and passengers in this ever-accelerating journey. The core idea isn't about numbers or rules. It's about understanding why we do what we do, even when it doesn't make sense. It's like when you're playing with blocks, and you just keep stacking them, even though you know the tower might fall. The core idea is about feeling, not fixing. It's about holding on to what you know, even when the world feels too big. It's not about being right. It's about being seen, even if the world doesn't understand why you're still standing. Before the first note is played, there's a quiet moment, a pause that feels like the breath before a storm. Everything is in place, yet nothing is certain. The room holds its breath, waiting for the signal. The setup is more than just wires and lights. It's a ritual. Every cable, every pedal, every speaker is placed with intention, as if it were a sacred offering to the sound that will soon follow. There's a weight to the silence before the music begins. It's not empty, it's filled with possibility, with the promise of something that hasn't yet been heard. This is where the story starts. The setup is a conversation between the musician and the space, an unspoken agreement that this is where the truth will be revealed. It's not about perfection, it's about presence. This is the first step, the foundation. It's not about the sound yet. It's about the moment before the sound, the space that holds it, the stillness that gives it meaning. It's the moment the gears finally align, the system breathing in its first row pulse. Every component, once isolated, now begins to resonate with the same rhythm. The system is no longer a collection of parts. It's becoming something alive, something that can feel, even if only in the way machines do. There's a stillness in the air, a kind of anticipation that stretches beyond time. It's not just the machine that's waiting. It's the person, the memory, the weight of all that came before. And then there's a sound, Not loud, not sudden, but unmistakable. The machine exhales, and with it, the world feels a little lighter, a little more real. This is the moment the machine becomes more than itself. It becomes a bridge, a memory, a reflection of what we've built and what we've lost. Step 3 is where the illusion is completed, where the gears shift and the story turns. It's not just a step, it's the pivot, the moment where everything changes. You think you've seen the whole picture, but this is where the trick is played. It's not about deception. It's about revealing something deeper, something hidden in plain sight. This twist doesn't just surprise. It makes you question what you thought you knew. It's a moment of clarity, but also of doubt, and that's where the magic lives. It's not just about what happens next. It's about how you feel when it does. This step doesn't just move the story forward. It changes how you see it altogether. That's the clever twist. Not a trick, but a turn. A shift in perspective that leaves you thinking, wondering, and forever changed by what you saw. There's a rhythm to the universe, a pulse beneath the surface of everything we see. It's not just the stars that hum, but the very air we breathe, the earth beneath our feet, the atoms that make up our bones. We are made of stardust, but we don't always feel it. It's like a song that plays just below the threshold of our hearing, a frequency that echoes through time and space, yet we're too caught up in the noise to hear it. The deeper we look into the science, the more we realize we are not separate from it. We are part of the same song, the same hum, the same endless vibration that binds all things. And in that realization, there is both wonder and weight. It's a hum that carries the weight of the cosmos, and we are caught in its rhythm, forever, unknowingly, beautifully. We're all just walking through a museum of our own lives, but the exhibits are always changing. Some rooms are bright and open, others are dark and locked. You can't take anything with you, not even the memories. The walls are silent, but the air hums with what's been left behind. Sometimes you think you understand the art, but then you realize you're just guessing. The curator never explains, and the labels are always in a different language. The beauty of it is that you don't have to know everything. You just have to keep walking. You just have to keep looking. Comment this emoji if you made it to the end. There's something about silence that speaks louder than words, and sometimes it's the absence of sound that tells the story we're too afraid to say out loud. We build our lives around noise, arms, conversations, the buzz of the city, but in those rare, hushed moments, we're left with the weight of what we've ignored. There is a kind of poetry in the way the world keeps going on, untouched by our fears, our regrets, our unspoken questions. In the quiet, we're forced to confront the parts of ourselves we've buried, and sometimes that silence is the only thing left to carry the truth. This is not just a video. It's a moment, a pause, a breath held between the chaos and the calm, where we are finally allowed to listen. We're talking about the weight of silence, the kind that settles in your chest like a stone. It's not the absence of sound, but the presence of something unspoken, something that lingers in the air like a ghost. It's the space between words, the pause that stretches too long, the kind of silence that feels like it's holding its breath. We speak, but we don't say everything. We leave parts of ourselves behind. The silence isn't just about what's not said. It's about the stories we carry, the truths we choose not to share, the parts of ourselves we hide from the world and from ourselves. We're talking about the weight of the unspoken, the invisible burden that lives in the spaces between our words. It's not loud, but it's loud enough to shape the silence we all live in. It's not just about not speaking. It's about not being heard, not being understood, not being allowed to speak at all. And that silence carries a weight we rarely acknowledge. You think you're immune to the weight of the world, but the truth is, you're just carrying it in silence. You're not alone in this, but you're also not seen. The things we ignore are often the things that shape us. They linger in the corners of our minds, waiting for the right moment to remind us of who we are and who we've become. We are all just ghosts in a machine, trying to remember who we were before the system forgot us. The more we try to hide it, the louder it gets. The things that matter are the ones we never talk about. They sit in the quiet spaces between our words, and they shape the stories we tell ourselves. You should care, because you are not just a spectator in your own life. You are the one who has to live with the consequences of what you ignore. We rush through the years, but time has a way of slowing when we touch the past. It lingers in the cracks of history, whispering stories that never quite fade. Empires rise and fall, but the weight of their footprints remains. We walk over them, not knowing the names of the people who once ruled, who once dreamed. We learn from the past, but sometimes it feels like we are only repeating its mistakes. The cycle is endless, and the lesson is always the same. We never truly escape the shadows. In our haste to move forward, we forget the beauty of what has been. The past is not just a memory. It is a mirror, and it shows us who we are, even when we don't want to see. History is not a straight line. It's a spiral, twisting back on itself, reminding us that we are never truly alone in the stories we carry. The core idea is like a seed that you plant in the soil of your mind. It doesn't grow overnight, but it changes everything once it takes root. It's not about making things bigger or louder. It's about making them mean something, even if it hurts to see them again. It's the quiet part of you that knows the truth, even when the world is too loud to hear it. The core idea is why you keep going, even when you don't know why you're still standing. The first step is the setup, a quiet room, a single light, and a silence that feels like it's been waiting for me. It's not about perfection, but presence. I sit down, not to perform, but to listen. I bring the camera to eye level, not to capture my face, but to find the space between me and the world. The lens is like a window, and I am the one who has forgotten how to look through it. The camera doesn't ask anything. It just waits, patient and cold, like a relic of a time when words had more meaning than they do now. I sit, and the silence begins to speak. This is where the work begins, not with words, but with the quiet act of being here. The setup is not just about the machine, but about the space between what is and what could be. To begin is to acknowledge that we are all just here, trying to make sense of the silence. The setup is a beginning, a fragile promise that the story will be told. The second step begins with a quiet, almost imperceptible shift. A valve opens, releasing a slow, deliberate pulse of air, like a breath held too long and finally let go. It's not a sound, but a feeling. The weight of the system, the gravity of its purpose, the way time is measured not in seconds, but in the spaces between moments. Each chamber is a memory, a fragment of something that once was. It hums with the past, with the echoes of choices made and paths not taken. There is no grand design, no orchestration. Just the weight of a system that once served its purpose and now, in its quiet decay, carries the burden of what it was. This is how it works. Step 2. Not with noise, but with presence. Not with motion, but with the stillness that holds everything together. And then it becomes clear. This isn't just about solving a problem. It's about rewriting the rules of what's possible, and in doing so, quietly erasing the old way of thinking. The twist is subtle, almost imperceptible, but it shifts everything, like a door that opens not into a room, but into another dimension of thought. You don't just find a solution. You find a new way of asking the question. And in that, you find a kind of freedom that feels both liberating and deeply lonely. This is the beauty of the twist. It doesn't just change the outcome. It changes the very nature of the journey. And in that change, there is a kind of quiet grief. The clever twist doesn't resolve the problem. It redefines the problem itself. And in doing so, it leaves us with more questions than answers. And that's where the wait begins. The science is not just equations and data. It's the quiet pulse of the universe. The hidden rhythm beneath all things. Something we can feel but never fully grasp. It hums in the silence between thoughts. In the spaces where we dare to wonder if there's more than we can see, more than we can understand. The science hums, but it doesn't answer. It asks, and we are left to carry its weight, to wonder, to grieve, to hope. It is in these moments of quiet, of reflection, that the hum becomes a song, and the song becomes a memory we carry through the years. The science doesn't end. It continues, humming in the silence, waiting for the next question, the next silence, the next wonder. We are all just trying to make sense of a world that doesn't make sense. Like a child trying to build a tower with blocks, only to watch it collapse every time. The blocks are not broken. They just don't fit together the way we expect. We try to piece together meaning, only to find the pieces don't align, not because they're wrong, but because we're looking in the wrong light. Sometimes the truth isn't in the blocks, but in the space between them. The silence, the pause, the question that lingers longer than the answer. We are not meant to have all the answers. We are meant to keep building, even when the tower falls, even when the light is dim, even when we're not sure if we're building the right thing. And maybe that's the most honest thing we can do, to keep building, even when we know the world is full of broken things. Comment this emoji if you made it to the end.